Hey people, Ed Sky here. You've been asking me for a long time now, how do I find topics and video games for my amazing videos? Remember to press the like button. Today I'm about to show you the process of coming up with a great idea for your video. First, enter the Steam store. Second, choose the desired tag, roguelike in my case. Third, sort by new. The first game I found this way was Ancient Abyss, so sit comfortably as we are entering the wonderful world of the Abyss and my inability to successfully capture clips in 1080p on my 1200p monitor. Note that the review features information that may be considered spoilers by some of you, so if you were planning a fully blind playthrough, do it before watching. Ancient Abyss is a new game by Screambox Studio, the developers of Angel Force Reloaded. I don't have a clue what is that game, but GamingLife.com listed it as their achievement, so it must have been good. Also, GamingLife.com specifically said that Ancient Abyss was planned to be released in 2019, but in fact it has not even been released as of now. The most complete version you can buy on Steam is just in early access. The gameplay focuses on exploring the abyss and clearing the floors after floors of the enemies. After finishing the game, if you could say so, I can state that Ancient Abyss is a great, beautiful roguelite that you may want to buy. Stay tuned to find out why. Let's not leave out the elephant in the room, how the game looks visually. And I must say, Ancient Abyss looks amazing. The sprites, the animations, the backgrounds, the artists did a colossal job of creating a beautiful world. I will say that it does not beat Undungeon in terms of details, but I barely can remember anything that beats Undungeon's visuals. Ancient Abyss does a great job attracting players' eyes towards itself, and that is what practically sold me the game. The game takes place in a so-called abyss, of which I cannot tell you much because right now there is not much lore information in the game, and some of it may have slipped from me. The main source of the game's story are the NPCs: Cyclopedia Dot, Noise Flint, Grapefruit Mocca, Blacksmith Raimonica,
oh yeah,
Psycho Gilde, not sure how to read it, Tutor the Divine, etc. Occasionally you may meet and interact with them on the levels, and this will usually give you some bonus or advantage. All over the abyss you can find the clues of what happens in the plot of the game. From what I understood, our protagonist, who is most likely female, is trapped in the abyss and her goal right now is to descend to the bottom and encounter the mysterious Abyss Master, who is in control here. In addition, she experiences some kind of Groundhog Day effect, because every time the protagonist dies, she wakes up at the beginning of the journey, with characters acting like nothing happened yet. Abyss Master himself is the only one who knows what is going on, and he addresses that in the beginning of the game. However, the story is really difficult for understanding, and not even because it is a new Christopher Nolan's time-related story. The problem lies at the core of the game's narrative, at the text, literally. The game was developed in Chinese, most likely by Chinese developers, and translated into English, probably also by them. Because the translation is so full of grammatical mistakes and often just uninterpretable. A lot of context and valuable lore information is just lost. Developers already announced that they are hiring a professional interpreter to translate the game better and even patched it 2 days ago. But until it is completed, we have what we have. I told myself that I won't be making overused jokes about China, but a quick note by the future editor at Sky. I opened the game to check out their new translation, and it is much better. The text is now much more understandable, and I'm only afraid to find out what name they gave to my favorite character, previously known as Goody Goody Donny. Of course, the most important part of practically any game is its gameplay. You don't really care that Doom 2016 has barely any story, because instead you have a chainsaw and the demon still has its guts. You don't really care that Doom Eternal has simultaneously too wide and not enough deep story, because slaughtering demons became even more fun. And I don't really mind losing a part of the story if we still have a good gameplay. And I'll give it that, the gameplay in Ancient Abyss is actually well done. Your every attack has its impact and a pleasant sound that makes the process of genociding the Quillboar tribes more captivating. On your way to the bottom of Abyss, you encounter more and more unique weapons and, as I call them, upgrade obelisks. Each obelisk allows you to choose one of 3 random perks that will help you in the future. Generally, these upgrades themselves are fairly balanced and won't make the game too easy. The game does not go all the way into Neon Abyss, where a few upgrades can win you the game. That said, some weapons are. Wanna see me kill a boss with one attack of my overpowered poisonous weapon? Wanna see me do it again? Still, that time was rather an exception, and I have never encountered anything remotely as powerful in the game again. Despite me mentioning the time traveling stuff and your actions being deleted from the timeline after your death, the game still has a character progression mechanic. In the starting hub, you can learn new tricks by spending the alternative currency, or even outright upgrade your health, stamina or stamina recovery. You may first have an impression that these upgrades don't make such a big difference, but in reality, the stamina is a really scarce resource at the beginning of the game. If your enemies spam you with attacks, your stamina will quickly be depleted, and you need to wait for too long for it to restore. This, practically, was the reason why I was stuck on the second boss for so long. However, with all of the upgrades, this won't be a problem whatsoever. I have a few problems with the game's controls, and the biggest one of them is the fact that your character performs her attacks and dodges in the direction she is looking, and not in the direction of your mouse. This limits you in terms of controls and makes you less flexible overall. I strongly prefer the system used in Enter the Gungeon, when you dodge in the direction of your movement and aim with your mouse. But when you get used to that, the controls won't be a problem. I like the game's music, but I cannot really go into the discussion of it because the OSTs were not as remarkable and I barely remember them. Usually I would just go listen to them separately on YouTube, but the developers have not published them outside of the game yet, and the game itself is not enough popular for the fans to do that. Overall, the music sounds decent and goes well with the gameplay. Specifically, I really like the boss tracks. However, other than that, I don't have much to say. I have to compliment a fairly various amount of enemies to slash. Regular-sized Quillboars are more basic and straightforward, so they make the easiest targets in the battle. Hunters and giant Quillboars are actually dangerous and constantly need to be monitored. The weird grass bugs were weak but particularly annoying. Different mobs represent different playing strategies, which shows game designers' competence in creating a variable gameplay. If you compare the number of enemies to roguelites like Enter the Gungeon or Binding of Isaac, Ancient Abyss loses in quantity, but it is compensated by the game's currently short continuity. About the short continuity. After beating the third level, you would expect to proceed further into the fourth. And so I expected, when suddenly the game presented me with this Evangelion ending. There I was, standing between a dozen of avatars representing the game developers, being applauded by them, shocked that the game ended so suddenly. Later I came to realize that the game did not actually end but was just not finished yet in its current early access state. The Abyss Master is still out there, waiting for us, with us not having a way to get to him at the moment. If you are a fan of action-oriented roguelites, you may be repulsed by the game's continuity, being shorter than of Doom Eternal, a linear first-person shooter. This is a completely understandable point, even I thought so at first. Originally, the review was going to be rather critical, with me concluding that buying the game right now is a bad idea. However, since I had time to think about it more, and I've changed my mind. Despite my dislike of the early access concept, the developers honestly positioned the game from the very beginning. They collect data and feedback from the players, they consistently release updates, fix the worst bugs, and they are already working on a proper translation. Screambox Studio yet have to deceive their customers, and so far I see no clues that would point to that happening. This is much more than I could say about half of professional video game studios. So, if my review of the game intrigued you, you're welcome to play it and enjoy the process. I certainly did. Just don't expect the game under a beautiful visual wrapping and early access written in big letters to compete in its current state with the titans of the genre. I definitely don't regret buying it, even though I don't have much money left since I bought this microphone. Even if I disliked it, I would have still made a review, which probably won't be my top performing video, though that is for you to decide. If you liked this video, you should check out the rest of my new content and potentially subscribe, because you would not want to miss the upcoming analysis of the entire Hunt Down the Freeman game. And while you are contemplating the idea, I disappear into the night.